Alright, for this video I wanted to do a walkthrough of the Schedule 1 Form 1040 Additional Income and Adjustments Income. It's a form that comprises 2 pages, so Part 1 is Additional Income, and if you scroll down to Part 2 you see Adjustments to Income. Now what you'll notice is there are a lot of different line items on this form. So obviously not all line items apply to every taxpayer. Many taxpayers don't need to include this schedule at all. So what we'll do is we'll go through some of the big ticket items that we often see on returns. Obviously, if something else applies to you that's not covered, doesn't mean you should omit it, right? You should report whatever you need to on your Form 1040. So before we get into the schedule, I have one slide here just covering some background on the line items that we will see dollar values for, just so you can get a little more context as to what's being reported and how we arrived at those numbers. I'll put timestamps in the description below. If something doesn't apply to you or you're not interested, just skip ahead to those sections. But okay, so the taxpayer we have here in this scenario is a full-time resident of Florida, works for a Florida-based employer. She made deferrals to her 401k retirement plan at work of $4,000, and her employer made a contribution to her HSA of $1,000. Now, she also did some part-time consulting work on an independent contract basis, so not an employee, and earned $4,500, which she ultimately reports on Schedule C. Now, she also wrote an ebook on the marketing industry and published this on an online platform, selling it as a digital product. And so she sold a number of those during the year and received a 1099 miscellaneous, reporting royalty income of $625. Now, Amy also has some student loans, so she made payments throughout the year and received a 1098E, showing interest paid of $2,108. Amy also received a gift, a very large gift from her grandparents, $20K. And her grandparents, instead of cutting her a check or giving her cash, they transferred the money via PayPal, which is fine. However, they forgot to classify it as a personal transaction rather than trade or business. And the reason why that's important, because personal transactions generally are not taxable and you shouldn't get a 1099K. However, she did get one anyway, right? So she got a 1099K showing the $20,000 that was sent to her account. So the IRS gets a copy of that 1099K, and so she needs to report it on her return. And Schedule 1 has been updated for 2024 to account for that reporting. And then last but not least, she put $1,000 into a traditional IRA account. And because she is covered by a retirement plan at work, she needs to calculate what portion, if any, is going to be deductible. And so that's done with the IRA Deduction worksheet and the Form 8606. So if we have a look at the form, so again, Schedule 1, Additional Income and Adjustments. So we'll touch on some of the big items and then go into more detail on the fields that have a dollar value. So the very first one at the top here, this is a change for 2024. So for 2024, if you received a 1099K and any amounts in there were for personal items, right? So like gifts or loans. So it's not income that was paid to you in connection with services or trade or business or something to that effect. It has to be reported as gross income and is taxable. If you have payments that are personal in nature, like we have now, you would report that personal component up here. So you can see there she's got the $20,000 gift that she received. So this is being reported up here, but it doesn't flow through to anywhere else on the return. It's just purely a reporting mechanism. And so this enables the IRS to be able to trace the 1099K back to here and see, okay, this was just a personal item that was reported on 1099K. It's not income. All right. Now, moving on down into Part 1. So this part and Part 2 are fairly common, or similar, I should say, from what we had last year. So state income taxes that were refunded to you, that were otherwise deducted in arriving at your federal taxable income. You might have to include those. Refunds as taxable income. Alimony is taxable income to the recipient. And so the first line item we have that applies to Amy is the business income or loss from Schedule C. So Amy did include a Schedule C to report the consulting income. So she's got her $4,500. a variety of expenses here. And so the net profit or loss here is going to be the $4,000 figure, and that's what's reported up on Schedule 1. In addition to completing this, she also completes the Schedule SE, which we'll come back to later because the deductible portion of the self-employment tax is reported in Part 2 of Schedule 1. So we've got the $4,000 income from the Schedule C. Other gains or losses, $47.97. This is if you sell property that was used in connection with a trade or business, and so that sale, the gain or loss, is generally ordinary in nature. Line 5, you report income flowing through from S-corps, partnerships, or trusts, and you report royalty income or rental real estate income. So you recall Amy sold a book online, and she received royalty income of $625. So we've got up here in Part B, line A, she's indicated that the type of property is code 6, so that's royalty income. And so in column A, she's reported on line 4, her royalties received. She doesn't have any expenses in connection with this income, so the royalty income ultimately flows back up to Schedule 1, and it's reported on line 5. Schedule F for farmers, if you received any unemployment compensation, the taxable component would be reported there. And then all of these other items, right? Some of the ones that we see frequently are gambling income. So if you do receive a 1099 or a W-2G for gambling winnings, those are reported up there. If you had any canceled debts, so credit card debts that were canceled that are taxable to you, those would be reported up on line 8C. A few other unique items down here. In this case, none of these apply to us, so that's why we left it all blank. You have Section 951A inclusions, that's Subpart F income. 951 Cap A is the guilty inclusion. Right? And so all of these other items, in our case, are blank, but of course, read the instructions, consider all the income you've received during the year, and then find the appropriate line item where it needs to be reported. All right. So if we move on down to the second page, adjustments to income. So educator expenses, so certain teachers under certain circumstances can deduct unreimbursed education expenses. So if you paid out of pocket for student things, you might be able to deduct those. The HSA deduction on line 13, that applies to us here, right? So you recall that Amy has an HSA and her employer funded a portion of it, but she put in some additional money as well. So she put in some extra funds. So if we look at the 8889, if we scroll down first to start, the employer contributions made was $1,000. So the employer put in $1,000, and Amy decided that she was going to put in, let's say, an additional $500. Well, the additional amount that she puts in, she is generally eligible to deduct that from her income. So she completes the rest of the 8889. And ultimately, the HSA deduction calculated here is going to be $500. Now, I'm very quickly going through this form because it's beyond the scope of this video. I have other videos on HSAs. I'll put those links below. So if you want a more detailed tutorial, go check those out. But the $500 in HSA deduction, that is reported up on Schedule 1 in Part 2. So we have a $500 HSA deduction. All right. Now, the deductible portion of the SE tax or self-employment tax. So this is attributed to that Schedule C. So if we look at the Schedule SE for Amy, so she completes the Schedule SE because she has Schedule C income. And again, I'm quickly going through this because I don't want to bore you with detailed explanations about every single schedule. But once the Schedule SE is completed, you compute not only how much self-employment tax you owe, but you're allowed to calculate the deductible portion, which goes on Schedule 1, Part 2. So when everything is said and done here, Amy's calculated her 1/2 deduction for the self-employment tax, which is $283, and that is reported back up on line 15 as $283, right? So line 15 for the deductible piece of the SE tax. Now, if you have other contributions to self-employed retirement plans or other qualified plans, those would go on line 16. If you're self-employed and you pay out of pocket for your own health insurance, that health insurance deduction will be reported on line 17 as well. There is a separate schedule that goes along with this now. I'll put a tutorial link below in the description if you want more color and tutorial on how to compute the SE health insurance deduction. All right. Penalty on early withdrawal of savings. Right. So if you take money out of, let's say, a CD too early, they might charge a penalty that can be reported on line 18. If we skip on down to the IRA deduction, so this is our traditional IRA deduction. So you recall Amy put $1,000 into her IRA. So if you make traditional IRA contributions, you're generally allowed to deduct the full amount unless there's a limitation or otherwise some sort of phase out. And so you'll notice we're deducting only $620 here rather than the $1,000, and that's because of the limitation on the worksheet. So if we look at, let's look at the IRA deduction worksheet here. So this is important if you are covered by a retirement plan at work and you make contributions to IRAs. You need to compute this worksheet to figure out how much you can actually write off. And so in Amy's case here, she is covered by a retirement plan at work. So she's going through the worksheet, and when she gets to the very bottom here, she determines that, okay, the amount of the deductible portion of my traditional IRA contribution here is going to be only $620, even though I put in $1,000. All right. I have more in-depth tutorials on the 8606. I'll put those links below also, so go check those out if you want more material on that. But the $620 that we have here is reported on Schedule 1, Part 2, on line 20. All right. Now the student loan interest deduction. So Amy paid a little over $2,100 in interest during the year. Notice that we're only deducting $1,300 and change because of the student loan interest deduction limit. So if you get a student loan interest statement, if you get one of those 1098Es, before you put down the interest on line 21, complete the worksheet first, right? So we have a student loan interest deduction worksheet. We can see up here on line 1 that she paid $2,108. And then given the amounts of income and other adjustments from Schedule 1, when she gets to the bottom of this, she discovers that, well, the student loan interest deduction available to me is $1,334, not the $2,108. So $1,334 is the limitation that's being reported up on line 21. All right. Now, some other key items that you might see, jury duty pay reported on line 24A. Some of these other items, quite frankly, you just hardly ever see them. Housing deductions. So if you're a U.S. expat and you're living abroad, you would complete the Form 2555 for the foreign earned income exclusion. You would report the housing deduction on line 24J. And some of these other items, again, very rarely see them, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on them. I've tried to cover some of the big ticket items that you would see. But when everything is said and done, and you've got the total adjustments here on line 26, that figure is being reported up to line 10 on the Form 1040. So after you do Schedule 1, Part 1, complete this first page, come up with your total down here, right? This is reported on line 1040, Form 1040, line 8, and then do Part 2, get your total here, and report these amounts on Form 1040, line 10. So if I go back up to the 1040, so we can get a quick look at this, we'll see here we have the adjustments to income from Schedule 1, line 26. So these are the the subtractions to income, 2737. And then we have the additional income from Schedule 1, line 10. There are the additions to income. All right, so fairly straightforward schedule, but it can be a bit confusing because there are just so many different line items on the schedule, so it can be a little overwhelming sometimes. But I hope that was helpful, a quick walkthrough. I will put more links in the description below covering in detail some of these more color or instruction on how to complete some of these specific items. But as far as a walkthrough, I think this is good just to get basic understanding of how this schedule works and how it flows through the 1040. All right, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.